Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to LaGuardia Community College. We thank you for being here this morning in the governor's hometown of Queens, New York. He may be a Queens guy, but the investments that he has made over this entire state of New York has moved this great state forward, and he has done us proud throughout the United States of America. Governor, you have invested in our infrastructure. You have put people to work. You have made New York State a safer and more resilient state. You are moving us into the future, and we thank you, Governor Cuomo, for your investments and your attitude towards New York. Thank you. Today, we will first see a brief video about the restoration of the Queens Midtown Tunnel and the Hugh L. Carey Tunnel since Hurricane Sandy. We will then hear from MTA Chairman Joe Lhota, and then we will hear from our governor, Governor Cuomo. It has been nearly 6 years ago since this city was devastated by the impact of Hurricane Sandy, and the storm wrought havoc across the borough of Queens, but also across the entire city of New York. And it inundated our tunnels and our infrastructure. But fortunately, our leaders stepped up to the plate and delivered real and immediate relief. And since then, we have been building back New York State step by step, brick by brick, bridge by bridge, and now our Queens Midtown Tunnel and the Hugh Carey Tunnel. So congratulations on today's extraordinary feat. So for a sense of how this city has changed, please turn your attention to the screen for a video about the transformation of the Queens Midtown Tunnel and the Hugh L. Carey Tunnel since Hurricane Sandy. Thank you very much for being here this morning for this great announcement.
As a nation, we have turned our backs on the network of bridges, highways, railroads, and airports that once made us the envy of the world. You can see our neglect from coast to coast. Today, there are more than 56,000 vehicular bridges that are rated as structurally deficient, and there are more than 820,000 miles of roads in disrepair. Not only have we failed to maintain the infrastructure that we inherited, we've also failed to keep pace with the new construction taking place around the world. Across Asia and Europe, we are watching other nations developing new infrastructure. Bridges that are breaking records for length, high-speed rail, and gleaming new international airports. But the United States has not built a new airport since Denver International opened in 1996. LaGuardia will be the nation's first new airport in 2 decades. We have heard one administration after another in Washington talk about the importance of infrastructure, but they have yet to back up their words with action. In New York, we aren't waiting for Washington. We are already pushing ahead with the nation's largest infrastructure program, $100 billion. And because you can never stop building your future, we have advanced a second 5-year infrastructure plan, $150 billion. Everywhere you look, in every corner of the state, we're building. We aren't just talking about it, we aren't just planning it, we're actually getting it done. Today, we are focusing on the 2 MTA tunnels, the Queens Midtown Tunnel and the Hugh L. Carey Tunnel. The Queens Midtown Tunnel was constructed to alleviate congestion on the East River bridges. President Franklin D. Roosevelt attended the groundbreaking ceremony for the tunnel in 1936. He was the first person to drive through it when it opened for traffic in 1940. Approximately 25.2 million vehicle trips are made through that tunnel every year. The Hugh L. Carey Tunnel, originally called the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, opened in 1950. It is still the longest continuous underwater vehicular tunnel in the nation, spanning 1.727 miles underneath New York Harbor. About 17.7 million vehicle trips are made through the tunnel annually. Neither the Queens Midtown Tunnel nor the Hugh L. Carey Tunnel have ever flooded since they opened. But climate change has produced more extreme storms over the past few years, including Superstorm Sandy that slammed into New York City October 29, 2012. It was one of the most devastating natural disasters in the history of the city, with wind speeds up to 90 miles an hour and an unprecedented storm surge of 9.5 feet. Sandy left major New York City tunnels filled with seawater as a result of flooding. The storm surge flooded the Hugh L. Carey tunnel with a staggering 60 million gallons of contaminated saltwater, submerging 2/3 of the tunnel, and 40% of the Queens Midtown tunnel was submerged, with roughly 12 million gallons. At the Queens Midtown tunnel, the storm surge from the East River and Newtown Creek resulted in widespread flooding of Long Island City. Floodwater flowed from Borden Avenue to the toll plaza in Queens, flooding the tunnel. At the Hugh L. Carey tunnel, most of the corrosive, debris-laden seawater flowed from West Street through the plaza railing at Morris Street and the entrance plaza under the Battery parking garage in Lower Manhattan. Some water came in through spare electrical ducts from the Con Edison vault and then through the ceiling airports onto the roadway level. Flooding caused catastrophic damage to the tunnel's walls, ceilings, and electrical, mechanical, exhaust, lighting, and signal systems. Governor Cuomo and MTA Chairman Joe Lhota oversaw the recovery efforts. They assessed the damage at both tunnels and directed the MTA to make critical emergency repairs to get the two tunnels operational as soon as possible. MTA crews alongside contractors, the U.S. Coast Guard, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers worked around the clock to pump out and clean the tunnels to get them back into service. The Queens Midtown Tunnel reopened 8 days after the storm. The Hugh L. Carey Tunnel reopened 14 days after Sandy. Governor Cuomo and Chairman Lhota also immediately began implementing a plan to completely rebuild the tunnels and improve their resiliency to withstand a 500-year flooding event. MTA Bridges and Tunnels awarded 2 contracts with a total value of approximately $588 million, largely funded by FEMA, to complete the work. Reconstruction, resiliency, and safety improvements at the tunnels included complete reconstruction of tunnel interiors, fire-rated ceiling panels, new wall tiles, catwalks, and pavements, reconstruction of the tunnel plazas, new submersible pumps with controls relocated to higher elevations, new traffic control and communication systems, new safety improvements, and major fire line system upgrades. Additional improvements were added to the restoration project. At the Hugh L. Carey Tunnel Manhattan side, the old, decaying Morris Street pedestrian overpass has been replaced with a sleek, new modern bridge that is ADA compliant. The new overpass provides a safer, more efficient pathway for pedestrians to traverse the plaza and has resulted in better traffic management due to an efficient new design that eliminates columns on the roadway below. Preventing water from flooding the tunnels in the future was a major concern during the restoration process. We evaluated various options for the portals, including plugging the openings with inflatable tubes. That apparatus, however, was deemed inefficient to withstand a 500-year storm at the tunnels. Ultimately, giant hinged steel floodgates, similar to those used in submarines, were determined to be the optimal solution. Each gate weighs 50,000 pounds and is approximately 29 feet wide, 14 feet high, and 2 feet thick. The watertight doors can be closed quickly in the event of a hurricane or other event that could flood the tunnels. The floodgates have been installed at each of the 8 portals at both tunnels. Additional flood mitigation measures have also been implemented at the tunnel plaza perimeters and on Governor's Island, where the seawall surrounding the ventilation building has been raised to 14 feet. Reconstruction of the tunnels has also provided opportunities for additional innovations that are transforming New York's infrastructure for 21st century travel. In September 2017, Governor Cuomo announced that cashless tolling was live and operational at all 7 MTA bridges and 2 tunnels, including the Queens Midtown Tunnel and the Hugh L. Carey Tunnel, and the old toll booths that slowed traffic were taken down. Cashless tolling makes it easier for New Yorkers to get where they need to go by improving traffic flow, reducing congestion, decreasing commute times, and improving motorist safety. Cashless tolling technology includes sensors and cameras suspended over the roadway on structures called gantries, and towers which read E-ZPass tags and take license plate images, so vehicles don't have to stop and pay tolls. Since cashless tolling has been operating at the 2 tunnels, motorist travel time has been reduced by up to 21 hours. Motorists save 1.7 million hours of total travel time. Fuel consumption has been reduced by 800,000 gallons. Carbon emissions have been reduced by 7,944 tons, and collisions in the previously tolled areas are down by 72.7% at the Hugh L. Carey Tunnel and 60.4% at the Queens Midtown Tunnel. Innovative new security systems have also been installed at both MTA tunnels, including technology to identify and intercept vehicles, including license plate readers that provide real-time enforcement information to New York State Police and MTA Bridge and Tunnel Police within 5 seconds for gantry-based LPRs and immediately for LPRs in police patrol vehicles. State-of-the-art security cameras deployed through both facilities. Radiation detection equipment installed at tunnel entrances. We are also testing facial recognition software. In addition, 37 10-ton trucks operated by the National Guard have been strategically deployed at each tunnel, as well as at all MTA bridges. The trucks can be quickly deployed to block tunnel entrances in the event of a terrorist attack. A multi-agency coordination center has also been established within the MTA Bridges and Tunnels Command Center to ensure coordinated strategic deployment of resources. Additional work completed during the tunnel's reconstruction included removal of the unsightly conduits that had covered the plaza walls for decades, revealing the original granite. Today, we are announcing that all of the Superstorm Sandy restoration work has been completed ahead of schedule and on budget. The Queens Midtown Tunnel, 11 months ahead of schedule. The Hugh L. Carey Tunnel, 9 months ahead of schedule. The total cost for tunnel restoration is $588 million. The Hugh L. Carey Tunnel restoration, $318 million. Work completed in 39 months. The Queens Midtown Tunnel restoration, $270 million. Work completed in 37 months. Now that major tunnel construction has been completed, tunnel operations will return to normal, and weekend closures that were necessary over the last several years to finish the work will end. Thank you to the entire team for completing these critical projects early and on budget. We have accomplished the goal set out by Governor Cuomo to not just build back, but to build back better.
Please welcome MTA Chairman Joe Lhota.
Good morning, everyone. And before I make some brief remarks, I'd like to acknowledge some folks who are here this morning. First and foremost, our host, LaGuardia Community College President Gail Mello. Gail, thank you very much. We have Senator Joe Adabo with us, as well as Assembly Member David Weprin. David? We have with us Gary LaBarba, President of the Building and Construction Trades Councils. Wayne Joseph, who is President of the Bridge and Tunnel Officers Benevolent Association. Christina Lampropoulos, the President of the TBTA Superior Officers Benevolent Association. Michael O'Meara, President of the MTA Police Benevolent Association. Earl Phillips, the Secretary-Treasurer of TWU 100. Earl, how are you? Stephen Peterson, Treasurer of the MTA Bridge and Tunnel Maintainers, and Edwin Christian, the Business Manager for the IEO Operating Engineers Local 14. All the men and women from labor who helped get this job done. I have Pat Foy with me, my colleague and partner at the MTA President, Pat Foy. Kelly Cummings is here, the Deputy Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor to the Governor. And my personal heroes who are here from MTA Bridges and Tunnels. The President of MTA Bridges and Tunnels, Cedric Fulton. Cedric, thank you. Joe Keene, the Chief Engineer. We also have Danny DiCrescenzo and Romulo DeSantis. Also, thank you very, very much. And also we have my good friend and somewhat partner at times, George McDonald, founder and president of the Doe Fund. Denise Kean-Smith, the chair of Queens Community Board 2, welcome, as well as Robert Camacho, the chair of Brooklyn Community Board 4. Robert, welcome. I want to thank everybody again for coming, and today we're celebrating an exciting milestone in the transformation of the New York metropolitan area ever since we were hit by Superstorm Sandy. Obviously, as the video said, we're talking about the restoration work that was completed ahead of schedule for both the Queens Midtown Tunnel and the UL Carey Tunnel. You know, when Sandy swept through the region, we had never, ever seen anything like it. I can remember that night as clear as can be, the ferocious storm that went through and the damage that it brought. Earlier in the evening, the lights had been out because of problems with Con Edison, you know, in the lower part of Manhattan. I went for a walk in lower Manhattan, first to see the damage that was happening to the subway system, then walked over to the UL Carey Tunnel, which only a week before had been named after former Governor Carey. And as I was walking there, it was dark, and I'm walking over the Morris Street Bridge, and I bumped into somebody, and somebody next to that person pulled me away. Well, the person who pulled me away was governor's security. I had actually bumped into Governor Cuomo that night, and I will tell you, he was looking down as the water was coming into the UL Carey Tunnel. You clearly couldn't see it that well, but you could hear it. It sounded like you know, somewhere where you'd go whitewater rapids. There were actually, you know, whitecaps flowing right down into the tunnel. And I'll never forget what the governor said and asked me. He said, "Is this normal, Joe?" And I said, "No, Governor, it's not." But he did tell me one thing right after that, which was absolutely true. We're going to fix this, and we're going to fix this right. And we did. There's no question about it. But it was clearly... To know the governor, to know that he was there, he knew there was damage going on, he was expecting it, and he was already planning the recovery efforts. I mean, it's a great testament, that encounter that I had with him that night was a great testament to his commitment to helping New York recover and be built, not just built back, but built better. I'm also extremely proud of the immediate recovery efforts right after that. Under the governor's leadership and with the support of the extraordinary workers, men and women of the MTA, we got our transit system up and running in just a few hours, and our tunnels opened in days. You know, after we got the system back on its feet, the governor never lost sight of the long-term goal, and that is the recovery effort and everything that was necessary, not just here at the tunnels, but in the entire New York metropolitan area that was devastated. He understood the challenges, and he saw the opportunities for us to build better and to build stronger. And that governor's commitment has been with us ever since that first day when I found him at the UL Carey Tunnel that night. And the New York metropolitan area is in much better shape because of his leadership and his commitment. It's with great pleasure that I introduce now the 56th governor of the great state of New York, Governor Andrew M. Cuomo.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here. Let's give a round of applause to LaGuardia Community College. Thank you very much for having us. Borough President is right. I am a Queens boy through and through. I worked in the federal government for 8 years, and I would work in different states all across the country. I was in every state. And inevitably, somebody would come up and they'd say, "Is that a New York accent you have?" I said, no, that's a Queens accent. That is different than a New York accent. But it was such a fantastic borough to grow up in, and it still is such a singular manifestation of the beauty of New York City. I've always found it that way. We have a great Madam Borough President. I call her Madam President. That is the proper protocol. She's been a great partner to the state. We have a lot of construction going on right now. We have LaGuardia, we have JFK, we have the Van Wyck Kew Garden Exchange. We had the tunnels. And the Borough President is always very concerned that there should be no disruption whatsoever to any traffic. If there's any traffic delay, she calls me right away, says, "Do something, Governor." She's a very hands-on Borough President. I saw her at LaGuardia Airport last week directing traffic. She had one of those yellow vests, moving people over. That's the kind of Borough President she is. She's a hands-on, get it done. Let's give her a great round of applause. Melinda Katz. To Joe Lhota and the whole team, you watch that video. It brings back memories. And Joe, mentioned that night. That night was surreal in so many ways. I had been in the office monitoring what was going on in Manhattan, and it got late, and downtown was basically being evacuated. And everyone had left the office, and I went in the car with Vincent, who's here today. I said, let's go downtown and see what's going on. And downtown was like a ghost land. Everybody was gone. It was frightening. It was abandoned. There was water everywhere, no lights. And I walked out on the bridge that Joe mentioned. They call it the Morris Avenue Bridge, but it's a walkway bridge across the front of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. And you're in the dark, and all you hear is water cascading from everywhere. And it sounded like thunder. And it was coming from every direction. You couldn't even figure out where it was coming from. And there's no one around. And then out of nowhere, I see this one person walking over the bridge. And I said, who is this lunatic out on a night like this? Everybody's supposed to be gone. And it's Joe Lhota. And the two of us are standing on this bridge, looking at the water pour into the tunnel, which was just a scene that is seared in my consciousness. And your mind just, spins. If this is happening here, what else is happening at the other places? How do you ever reverse this? How do you stop it from happening again? And then coming back from that was also an unreal circumstance. How do you pump out the tunnel? Nobody knew. Well, there must be someone. Let's call the Federal Army Corps of Engineers. And they said, we never pumped out a tunnel like that. What are the largest capacity pumps? How do we get them here? How fast? What damage was done? It was a case of first impression. Nobody had gone through it before. And the work that the MTA did was masterful. When you saw the damage the day after, you would think this is going to be months before you can get this up and running. But it was literally a matter of days. And we did take it as a wake-up call. I can't tell you how many emergencies I have been to as governor, where they always say, this is a 1 in 100 year, 1 in 500 year occurrence. Yeah, except it happens every other month. And people who deny climate change, you're denying reality. It is real. We have hurricanes, we have tornadoes, we have storms in places where these things never happened. I can't tell you how many homes have been washed away where the owner has said, this home has been in my family for 100 years. We never had a drop of water. And now the whole house is gone. So Hurricane Sandy, it's not this happened, let's fix this, but don't worry because it was once in a lifetime. I believe this is a precursor. And I believe this is going to happen again and again and again. So then the challenge becomes different. Plan for this to happen again. And now what do you do? And not what do you do just with these two tunnels, but what do you do for the city? How do you keep the water out of the subway system? How do you keep the water from going down every subway entrance? All those grates that you walk over on the sidewalk, those are air ducts. How do you close all those ducts? How do you close all those subway entrances? Because the subway system, obviously it's all underground, 600 miles. You flood the subway system, where would you ever start to rebuild? So it was a phenomenal undertaking, and nothing like it had been done. And then, added pressure. We want to do all of this, and the hyper-aggressive governor says, we have to do it tomorrow. But in the meantime, New Yorkers, they have a short patience span. Oh, that was terrible, Hurricane Sandy, but that was yesterday, and I have to get to work today, and why isn't the subway running, and why isn't the tunnel opening? Well, do you remember Hurricane Sandy? Yes, but that was yesterday, and I am now in today. So we wanted to get it done well, and we wanted to get it done very quickly. I can't tell you how many people killed themselves on this project. The MTA, the TBTA team, Joe, Romulo, Cedric, you guys have been fantastic. They were doing the impossible and doing it on an accelerated basis. The construction companies, when people say, why union construction? Because there is nothing like union construction. That's why. And these construction workers had an added burden to deal with, because every time I went through the tunnel, I would get out and I would call them over and say, see, this tile is crooked. I don't understand why that cable is lagging. And then I would call Gary LaBarbera and I'd say, you have to go out to the Queens Midtown Tunnel, go 20 steps into the tunnel and you'll see a light, and the light frame is crooked and we have to get that light frame fixed. And he would always humor me. But it was a job phenomenally well done. And then on top of it, we did the cashless tolling transfer. Now, that was a technological nightmare. And technology and bureaucracy are a bad combination. Sort of like salt water and electric circuits, right? They don't go together well. But the cashless tolling has been an amazing, amazing innovation. And when you look at those numbers on the time savings, the gas savings, the environmental savings, it has really made a phenomenal difference. So let's give the whole team a real round of applause. And two other quick points. The cashless tolling, which is really not about tolling. It's really about putting in an electronic system that we have never had before. And I believe it's going to have significant benefits going forward. Because what that allows is with the, let me just get this right, with the technology, what it is doing is it's put in a system that reads every license plate that comes through that crossing and reports to the police car that is stationed right there within 5 seconds. When it reads that license plate, it reads it for scofflaws, etc. It also reads it for warrants, suspected felons, parole violators, terrorist suspects. So it is a phenomenal security device above and beyond reading the toll. The toll is almost the least significant contribution that this electronic equipment actually can perform. We're now moving to facial recognition technology, which takes you to a whole new level, where it can see the face of the person in the car and run that technology against databases. They even are experimenting with ear technology, because many times a person will turn their head when they see a security camera. So they're now experimenting with technology that just identifies a person by the ear, believe it or not. A big priority for us in this new normal is anti-terrorism security. And I believe these systems are actually going to play into that very well. you look at much of the security systems being done internationally, and they were all technology-based. I recently went to Jerusalem to tour what they did in terms of policing in Jerusalem. It is amazing the technology they have and what they've been able to do. So we're testing this software, we're testing these devices at different bridges and tunnels. We're planning on them for the airports and for the terminals going forward. And when you think about Manhattan, which is a special priority when it comes to terrorism, Manhattan as an island actually poses certain opportunities. It's an island, you have to go over a crossing to get to the island. Or you have to go through a terminal. We can have these devices on all of those crossings. We're doing these 2 tunnels today, but in the next few weeks we're going to open the Throgs Neck to Whitestone, the Triborough Bridge. They're all going to be coming online. LaGuardia is under construction, JFK is under construction. They will all have this technology. And it can be a significant shift in the paradigm for providing security for people going in and out of Manhattan and even in the metropolitan area. We have to get the Port Authority now to move to do the west side crossings, the George Washington Bridge, Holland Tunnel, Lincoln Tunnel, et cetera. But it's a real opportunity. And in general, this is a piece of what we are doing, right? When it comes to construction development, transportation development, it's a very simple rule. You either move forward or you are left behind. That is all there is to it. And it's now an international competition. Businesses are deciding where to locate, people are deciding where to live, and they can be anywhere in this country. They can be anywhere on this globe. They can go to Paris, they can go to London, they can go wherever they want. That's the competition we're in. And every business and every person is making the same basic decision: what's the best place to live and do business? I used to say when I was HUD secretary and I would fly into a city and talk to the Chamber of Commerce, I would say, look, either you're going to build and grow, or the city down the road is going to build and grow and leave you behind. There is no concept of maintain the status quo. You maintain the status quo, you are going to be left behind because other places are going to be developing. And right now, this country is being left behind. And it's not even close. You saw that on the video. Who's doing high-speed rail? Who's doing better airports? You fly all around the world, and then you fly into New York, and it's shocking how far behind we are. And this is not a New York problem. It's a national problem. Best thing President Trump said when he was elected was that he was going to do a $1.5 trillion infrastructure. I said, hooray, $1.5 trillion infrastructure, because he understood how we're being left behind. That plan disappeared, the $1.5 trillion. So many of the campaign promises that he made disappeared, but that's a different topic for a different day. The $1.5 trillion has now become a $200 billion plan for the nation over a period of years. $200 billion for the nation over a period of years is nothing. It is nothing. New York State alone is doing $100 billion, the largest infrastructure and development program the largest construction program in the country. Why? Because if the other states aren't going to do it, we're going to do it. And frankly, if we have an advantage and a development advantage because this is the state that is doing it, then so be it. The last new airport this country built, 20 years ago, the Denver airport. LaGuardia is going to be the newest airport in the United States of America. JFK is going to be the second newest airport in the United States of America. If they're not going to grow and lead, then we will grow and lead to our advantage. And I also believe it'll be a wake-up call for this country when they see what we're doing and the economic benefits to what we're doing. I think they will then wake up and understand the Trump point was right and we missed the boat, and we've missed the boat for decades, letting everybody else build and develop while we've been standing still. We're doing it all across the state. I know I'm from Queens. Some people have said, well, how come Queens is getting all this special construction? I didn't put LaGuardia there in the first place. I didn't put JFK there in the first place. I didn't put the Van Wyck there in the first place. I didn't put the Queens Midtown Tunnel there. But to the extent a lot of it is in Queens, and Queens is going to reap the benefits, so be it. But we are building all across the state. New airports all across the state. Down here, LaGuardia, JFK, Stewart Airport in the Mid-Hudson, then Rochester Airport, Syracuse Airport, Ithaca Airport, Plattsburgh Airport, Albany Airport. We're going to be doing all the upstate airports also, because airports are the front door to business now. People come into the airport, and that's where they see, that's the first impression. Many people fly into the airport, they do business in the airport, they turn around and they leave. We're doing airports all across the state, roads and bridges all across the state. I want to take that $100 billion plan, and I want to increase it next year to a $150 billion plan. We've proved that we can do it. Our construction projects are up and running. We're going to open the Mario Cuomo Bridge, which is the old Tappan Zee Bridge, largest infrastructure project in the United States of America. And that is going to be on time and on budget. I want to continue to lead in the construction and development. I want to continue to stay ahead of the rest of the country. I want to continue to lead by example for the rest of the country. And I want to continue to build New York first and best.
Will you sign the maintenance of Pepper bill?
What? Where did that come from? Comprehensive, we're going to build a comprehensive air, train, and road priority. Mass transit has to be improved, and the airports. Those are the top two priorities. Specific priority, MTA, LaGuardia Air Train. Finally, finally, finally. How long have we been talking about an air train from LaGuardia? We have that approved legislatively. We're rebuilding the Long Island Railroad, $6 billion to bring that up to speed. JFK International Airport, and then upstate roads and bridges, which have been crumbling for years. And look, it's very simple. In many ways, this country and this state, we have rested on the laurels of what our forefathers built. Everything you see was a creative, ambitious vision that defied reality. Empire State Building, Verrazano Bridge, tallest ever, Brooklyn Bridge, first ever, Holland Tunnel couldn't be done, it was too long. They were all about ambition and drive and building and making it happen, and everybody's telling them why it can't happen and why it's impossible, and they said, heck with that, we're New York, we can do it. We can make it happen. And that's why New York is New York. What made us special? What made us first? What made us best? God didn't say, New York is going to be the special place. New York City, New York State, they are going to be the special place. It was not divine intervention. It was the hard work, it was the vision, it was the creativity of New Yorkers. It was the arrogance. It was the ambition, it was the drive, it was the perseverance, It was never taking no for an answer. It was saying no to the naysayers and the doubters and pushing ahead. That's what New York is all about. Everything you see makes that statement. Every public works, 600 miles of subway system, underground. How could you ever do that? It's impossible. We did it. And we did it again and again and again. That's the spirit we have to rekindle. Because that's what made New York, New York in the first place. And that's what will keep New York at the head of the game. And it is a new round in the game every day. And everyone is competing with everyone. And we want to make sure when we get to the end of our day, we left New York better for our children than we found it. We did the same thing. We did the same thing that the founding mothers and fathers did for us. They left us a gift. They left us a place that was a marvel of the world. They did it with blood and sweat and tears, and they gave us that gift. When we hand over that gift, it has to be better than the gift that was handed to us. And we're going to make sure that happens. And we are on the way. And I want to thank Joe Lhota and Pat Foy and the TBA team and Kelly Cummings. Let's give them all a round of applause. Madam Borough President, thank you. LaGuardia Community College, thank you very much.
Just a thank you. How can I top that? Thank you very much to all the people from the TBTA who were able to get this up and running ahead of schedule and under budget. Thank you very, very much to all of you and all of the workers. Thank you.